Ready? Okay, so you can see the screen, and you bring in any object. I'll just get a ball. Or maybe a rectangle would work well. So you can see that I have a kind of a rectangular shape. So in order to cast a shadow, what you have to do is make sure that you go to create, and then after you've created something, go to modify, move it up, and zoom out so that you are on the top level. Is that clear? Okay. So next thing is you go to layer 2. You can press 2 and option shift 1, so you can see where it is located, so you can see the other layer. Is this clear? And then you go to create with your left mouse button, and then create a box from the top view, and just create some kind of a base or a layer where you cast your shadow will fall. If you want to give it a little depth, you can, but it is not necessary. Okay, and then you can go and save it. Make sure you go to file, save as. I'll just give it a name. So make sure you know where you're sending it. So go to your proper file. So far, is it clear? You're writing these down. So if you go to 1, hold shift and 2, you can see that you have 2 objects there. One is for the shadow, one is for the object. So once you have saved it, you can go to 1, and if you want to add a color, you press Q, and then I'll type in red box and choose the color red. For the bottom layer, for the shadow, you don't need to choose anything. Every time you do something, make sure you save it. Open up Layout. This is the blue icon you see on the taskbar, and you can go to the modeler. In this corner over here is where you send it to layout. Send object to layout. Don't synchronize layout. Once you have sent it, you have to synchronize layout. You don't send it again, because if you send it again, two objects will be there. So once, for the first time when you're sending it, make sure that you are sending as one object. So send object to layout. And you can see that this has come in layout. Now layout will come as single screen. So what you do is you press D for Denmark, and then you'll see preferences and viewport. With your left mouse button, make sure you click and do double vertical. Now when you have double vertical, that means it's 2 viewport you're seeing. By default it might come as top, so instead of top, you just go in and make sure you're in the camera view. So the camera view is where you actually are going to render it. So if you click over here and go to VPR, this is how it's going to look. This is how your rendered image will look. So make sure you're on the texture shade, so it's easy to animate. In this perspective view in layout, you have the light, and it doesn't matter where the light is, it does not make any change, it's not rendered. and this is your camera, so you can raise it a little bit up by pressing T for move, and on the T you have the different axes, X, Y, Z, so you can move any way you want. If you want to rotate it, press Y, and then you have the heading, pitch, and bank. So you can see heading and pitch. If I move this, you'll see that heading goes left and right, and if I deactivate this, and if I just activate pitch, which goes front and back, and if I deactivate that and just say bank, so you can see bank is rotating in its own axis. Is that clear so far? Is this clear? So by default all of them will be active. Normally when you're animating, you'll be just activating heading, because I'm going to animate left and right. So animation is there, and then you have something like a base that will cast the shadow. So I can press T, and whatever is inside this area, that only will render. So if I render now, you'll see that it is all cut off. So make sure that whatever you render, this is real-time rendering, make sure that your camera is positioned in such a way that you go to pitch, and you bring it into the camera. You can also move your camera by clicking here and dragging it front or back with your, when you're on the move tool. You can go left and right. Is this clear so far? And you can drag it down and look at it, and then you can see now that if I, this is virtual, this is not actual rendering, but it's giving you what the rendering will look like. So you can see that it is already casting a shadow. You can click on your base and make sure that your shadow is all in. And to be able to do this, you make sure that in your object view, your shadow layer is selected, not your other one. So if you select this one, this is the box. If you select this one, this is the object. Then you click on surface editor and you go to shading model, and in shading model there's photoreal, cell, shadow catcher, sublimation, cell shader. You go to shadow catcher. Do you see that your object is gone? So remember, from material you go to the right side, and by default it will say photoreal, and to get rid of this object, the base that you have, you need to click on this photoreal and go down with your left mouse button and release, and whatever is your background, it will create that shadow. Now in order for you to have a realistic background, you can go to backdrop, and then you go to composite and use you go to background image. You can load an image. I don't know whether I have any image, but let me check. So let me open this up. So do you see that it's casting a shadow? So this is actually basically, this is how when you render it, and I'm going to go into render mode and all. So the way you render something is you select the object, press Y, make sure pitch and bank is off, and you can rotate, you need to make sure that your object is selected, not your base, and you can rotate it. You can take this off from VPR and see how it's rotating. So in order to animate, what you have to do is, this is your timeline, and you can take it to 300 or 3000, doesn't matter. I'm just going to show you with 300. Depends on how long your animation is. We'll talk a little bit about that, but for this project, just press return or enter, and you're in 300. So what you have to do is, these are your like your Netflix play, back, forward kind of thing. You can go to the last frame by clicking on here. So it will animate and it will render automatically. So what you do is you click, drag with your left mouse button and rotate it maybe 1 or 2 times. Go to the first frame, render it. So it is right now animating. Is this clear? Yes? So what you're going to see is basically, you're going to see over here in VPR how it is animating. So this will take time because it renders one image at a time. So this might delay a bit, but this is not what you're going to actually animate. This is the real-time rendering. What you have to do is go to render mode, render tab here. On render tab, you go to render properties on this left-hand side. Do you see render properties? Click on render properties, and then in general, make sure that your preview is off. Do you see the preview over here? Otherwise it will take a long time to render. Go to output on the right hand side at the end of this tabs, output tab. Click on animation, make sure this is clicked, this ticker mark, and then this is where you come down over here at the bottom, base path. This is where your folder is. You just go and make sure that you select the right folder. So I'm on desktop, and I can go in to digital painting and drawing class, open it up, and this one shows you exactly what file name you want to give it. So I will just name it red box animation. You can give whatever name your final project will be. Make sure you save it. Now file format over here, do you see, can you see file format? Can all of you see? So file format, you have to press and make sure it's on QuickTime. And encoding option, you don't have to do anything. You just leave it as it is. Now once you have done the render properties by clicking on animation, going to general and clicking off review, then going to output, then clicking on the folder and what is your file name, and file format is QuickTime. You close this, and then you come here with the render tab on. You come to render scene. Is that clear? So if you click on render scene, it will ask you, do you want to set the number end frame to the slider and from 300 frames. So you're already you're on 300 frames. You don't have to do anything, just press yes. Click yes again, automatically it is going to render. Do you see that? So this is the actual animation that is happening. This is what you're going to get for your final animation. Is it clear? So this will take time to render. Let it render. Any questions? So this is what you'll need to submit once you're done rendering. You can see that here you can see the base, but in the render here you don't see any base. You see that? Because the shadow catcher is taken up and there is no base over there. Once the rendering is done, you can go to Redbox animation. And if there's a reflection, you can stop it. Go to Surface Editor. Increase the roughness. And the roughness should be gone.